Alright, so our lesson today is over two-step equations. So we looked the past few lessons at solving one-step equations where we just had to do one thing, add, subtract, multiply, or divide, and that would solve for the variable. With two-step equations, we have to do, you guessed it, two steps in order to solve for that variable. So that's exactly what this says. A two-step equation is an equation that takes two different operations to solve it. So different operations would be like adding and multiplying, subtracting and dividing. So we're going to have to do those two of those steps in order to solve for our variable. Okay, if you need to pause and finish getting that down, you can, but we're going to move on. A few different things about solving two-step equations. So first of all, our goal for solving these equations is still the same as what we did when we solved one-step equations. We want to get the variable by itself on one side of the equal sign. So that goal doesn't change at all. Okay, also, this second one doesn't change either. To get rid of something, get rid of a coefficient or an unlike term that's being added or subtracted, we want to perform the opposite operation. So if we added that term, we need to subtract it. If we multiplied it, we need to divide. And then if we perform an operation on one side of the equal sign, we've got to do the same thing to the other side of the equal sign. So all three of those steps, or those points, it's still the exact same as when we solved one-step equations. So the goal, how we do something, do it to one side, we've got to do the same thing to the other side. None of that changes, which is good. It's going to help us kind of remember those steps that we're going to take to solve these equations. Now, there is going to be a few things that are specific to two-step equations, and that's what this slide is saying. So when solving these two-step equations, we're going to do the opposite of PEMDAS. So normally, adding and subtracting would be last when we talk about order of operations. But when we're solving two-step equations, we need to add or subtract first. So we're going to add or subtract first, and then multiply and divide is going to come after that. We're not really going to have parentheses or exponents in these examples that we have to worry about. So we're just going to focus on adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So we're going to do the opposite of PEMDAS, which means we need to add or subtract first to get rid of any unlike terms. And then we'll multiply or divide to get rid of that coefficient, the number that's in front of the variable. Okay, so we'll look at a few examples. Once we start to do a few of these, because we've practiced solving equations so far, it's not going to be too hard to catch on. So we've got 2x plus 3 equals 9. So we are adding 3. We need to get rid of that plus 3 first. To get rid of the plus 3, we would subtract 3, because 3 minus 3 would get us 0. If we subtract 3 on the left side of the equation, we need to subtract 3 on the right side of the equation. So 3 minus 3 would cancel out. What we're left with is 2x equals 9 minus 3, or 6. Now, once we get rid of that plus 3, once we add or subtract, we have just a one-step equation. 2x equals 6. We've been solving those for a few days now. We need to divide by 2 on both sides. 6 divided by 2 will get us x equals 3. If you want to check your answer just to make sure that it works, plug 3 back in for x here. 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 plus 3 would equal 9. Okay, so the same thing on this next one. We have 3x plus 2 equals 23. We're adding 2, so to get rid of that plus 2, we want to do that first. We would subtract 2. So that's going to leave 3x on the left side of the equation equals, because the 2's cancel out, 23 minus 2 gives us 21. Now we have a one-step equation. To get rid of that 3, we're going to divide by 3 on both sides. Going to cancel the 3 out. 21 divided by 3 would give us x equals 7. X equals 7. Okay, for this next one thing that I don't want you all to do is get into the habit of always getting rid of the left side first, because sometimes we're going to have to do it on the opposite side. Notice, you want to take care of everything on the side of the variable. This minus 1, if we kept the minus 1 here, or if we got rid of the minus 1, everything is still going to be on the same side as the r. we want to get rid of the 4 and we want to get rid of the 1/5, so that way all we're left with is that r. So what we need to get rid of, we want to get rid of the number that's by itself. Wait to get rid of the 1/5 until the very end. So we're first going to get rid of this 4. Now this is a positive 4. To get rid of a positive 4, we need to subtract 4. So I subtract 4 on the right side of the equal sign. I don't need to do anything with this 1/5 r. I also need to subtract 4 on the left side. So you see what happened there? 4 is on the same side as r, and that's what's being added. So we're going to get rid of that. And because this is a positive 4, we subtract 4. We've got to do the same thing to the opposite side. So this 4 minus 4, that cancels out. What we're left with on the right-hand side is 1/5 r equals -1 plus -4 is going to give us -5. Okay, so now we have the one-step equation. -5 equals 1/5 r. Remember what we talked about. To get rid of a fraction in front of our variable, we're going to flip the fraction and multiply by the reciprocal. So flip this and multiply by 5/1. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5/5 would give us 1. So that's going to cancel out. If we multiply by 5/1 here, on the right side, we've got to multiply on the left side as well. So what we're left with is just an r on the right side, and then 5 times -5 would be -25. If you tried to multiply by 5/1 first before you subtracted the 4, that's not going to get you the correct answer. Okay, so we want to add or subtract first, and then we can move our attention to multiplying or dividing. Okay, so I want you all to do those next 3 on your own. Pause the video, and then we'll come back and look at them together in a second. All right, so our first one here, 3y plus 5 equals 14. So I'm going to subtract 5 first. We need to add or subtract first. We're going to get rid of that 5. We want to keep the 3y until the very end. Okay, so 5 minus 5 cancels out. We're left with 3y equals 14 minus 5, which gives us 9. And then divide by 3. That's going to cancel out and give us 1y. And 9 divided by 3 would be 3. So y equals 3 for that first one. Okay, for the second one, I want you to not pay attention to that -5s. You're going to think, okay, -5, I need to add 5 to both sides, right? But this -5 is attached to the s. So wait and add or subtract first. We're going to subtract 8 here because 8 is the number that is by itself. It's the constant. 8 minus 8 is 0. That's going to cancel out. We have -5s left over. Equals -2 and -8 is going to get us -10. Now, this is -5 times s. If we are multiplying a number by the variable, to get rid of it, do the opposite of multiplication, which would be division. So we're going to divide both sides by -5. Divide both sides by -5. That's going to cancel out the -5. And leave us with a positive 1s. -10 divided by -5 would be positive 2. So s equals positive 2 is our answer. All right, and then our third one, we've got -2 plus 2/3 w equals 10. We want to get rid of the number that doesn't have the variable with it, and that would be a -2. If it's -2, what's the opposite of -2? Well, that would be positive 2 or plus 2. And we're going to move to the other side of the equal sign, which is this 10. We're going to add 2 to 10 as well. So -2 and positive 2 gives us 0. We're left with 2/3 w equals 10 plus 2, which is 12. And then think back. We've got a fraction in front of our variable. To get rid of that fraction, we're going to flip it and multiply by 3/2. we're going to do that to both sides. So 3 over 2 times 2 over 3 gives us 6 over 6, or just 1, so that's going to cancel off. We're left with 1w equals 12 times 3 is 36 over 1 times 2 is 2. 36 over 2, 36 divided by 2, simplifies to 18. So our answer there would be w equals 18. Okay, so the biggest thing to remember is you're going to do the opposite of PEMDAS. So you're going to add or subtract first, and that's going to get rid of the number that doesn't have the variable with it. Then we can focus our attention to getting rid of the coefficient, the number in front of the variable, the 3, the -5, the 2/3. And by doing that, we just either multiply by the reciprocal or we divide. That's what we've been doing with these. Okay? So the last thing I want to look at is writing two-step equations, and there are 4 steps that we're going to take when writing two-step equations, and as you're going to notice, these are very similar to what we talked about when writing one-step equations. They're just going to be an extra step involved because it's now a two-step equation. So step 1 stays the same. We still define the variable. Tell me what the variable is and what it represents. Step 2, you're going to determine, okay, which number in that problem goes with the variable. And that's going to be the coefficient, so 2x or 7w. That's what we're going to put first. And then, since it's a two-step equation, we're going to have to also add or subtract something. Think about the equations we've solved so far. It's not just 3y, it's 3y plus 5. Not just -5s plus 8. So we're going to have to do that. And then the last number that we're left with that we didn't add or subtract, that's going to go on the other side of the equal sign. Okay, so these 4 steps are what we're going to take to write these two-step equations. So let's look at our first one here. It says Tanya had her birthday party at the movies. It cost $27 for the pizza and $8.50 per friend for the movie tickets. Write and solve an equation to find how many friends Tanya had at her party if she spent $78. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is define the variable. So go back to that question and ask yourself, all right, what am I trying to find? What am I trying to find? Well, you read, you see find how many friends she has at her party. So we're going to say F represents friends. And then F is going to be in our equation. Next thing you've got to ask yourself is what number goes with F? What number goes with each friend? Read that question. Which number goes with each friend? Well, notice it says it's $8.50 per friend. So that's going to go in front of F. So it's going to be 8.50 F. Then, before we put the equal sign, we've got to figure out, okay, what am I adding or subtracting? Well, I'm going to be adding or subtracting. We're thinking about the money that is spent. It's $8.50 per movie ticket, and it's also $27 for pizza. And it's just a one-time $27 fee. And so think about if I'm trying to find out how much total I can spend, it's going to be $8.50 every movie ticket plus the $27 for pizza. So $8.50 F plus 27 equals, and she has $78 to spend. So 8.50 F plus 27 equals 78. That's our equation. Now we also need to solve it. It says write and solve. So we're going to subtract 27 first and do that from both sides. Leaves us with 850 F equals 78 minus 27 is 51. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and write that to finish off. 850F equals 51. Divide by 8.50. And do that on both sides. So that is going to leave us with just an F. And then 51 divided by 8.5 is going to end up giving us exactly 6. So the answer would be she had 6 friends at her party if she spent a total of $78. Okay, so I want you to get some practice writing the two-step equation. So go ahead and pause the video, do that one on your own. We'll come back and look at it in a second. All right, so looking at this question, first thing is to define the variable. What am I trying to find? We'll find how many CDs she can buy. So we'll say C for CDs. You could use a different variable, different letter for that, but I'll use C for CDs. Okay, we know C is going to be in our equation. Next question, what number goes with each CD? Well, she wants to buy CDs that cost $14 each, so that means 14 is going to go in front of the C. Did she buy anything else? Well, yeah, she bought a DVD that cost $23. How many DVDs did she buy? Just one. And so we just have to add 23 one time, because we know that she spent exactly $23 on DVDs. We don't know how much money she spent on CDs yet. That's why it's 14C. Okay, she has $65, so it's going to be equals 65. Right? So we've got our two-step equation there. Last thing that we need to do is to solve it to figure out how many CDs she can buy. Subtract 23 from both sides. And that's going to leave us with 14C equals 42. And then we need to divide both sides by 14. And 42 divided by 14 equals 3. So she can buy 3 CDs with that $65. Okay, so that's two-step equations, very similar to one-step equations. You just got that extra step there. Remember, the opposite of PEMDAS. So add or subtract first, and then multiply or divide second to get your variable by itself. So work on the practice problems, and hopefully you'll be able to get this down pretty easily.